What if I told you that there's a creature on this planet that can recognize your face, navigate using quantum effects, and communicate through interpretive dance? We've known about this creature for thousands of years and still don't fully understand it. Stick around, because the things bees can do will absolutely blow your mind. Bees. We think we know them, right? They buzz, they make honey, they have that scary stinger. But the reality is so much weirder than what we learned in elementary school. Over the next few minutes, you're about to discover 10 facts about bees that will change the way you look at them forever. Fact number 1, bees can recognize your face. Let's start with something that sounds absolutely impossible. Bees can recognize individual human faces. Scientists proved this by training bees to associate a human face with food. Then they showed the bee a lineup of different faces, and the bee would pick the correct one, over and over again. But here's where it gets really unsettling. Bees use a similar neural pathway to recognize faces that humans use, the same fundamental architecture, which means a bee and a human are solving the same problem in fundamentally similar ways, despite our brains being literally thousands of times larger. When you go into your backyard and a bee lands on you, it might actually remember you. It might recognize you the next day. Fact number 2, the waggle dance, nature's first language. In 1946, a scientist named Carl von Frisch discovered that when a bee finds nectar, it comes back and performs a dance. Not just any dance, a specific mathematical dance that contains exact information about where the food is. The bee faces the direction of the sun, then does a figure-8 pattern while waggling its body. The angle tells other bees which direction the food is. The duration of the waggle tells them how far away it is. The speed tells them how good the food source is. It's literally binary code in the form of a dance. Scientists have done the math. When a bee says the food is at a 45-degree angle to the sun and 300 meters away, it's accurate within a few meters. This is navigation-grade precision from a creature with no GPS or instruments. For decades, scientists argued about whether bees actually understood what the dance meant, but in 2008, researchers proved that bees could learn new dances, could improvise, and could adjust on the fly. They're not just following a program, they're actually communicating. Fact number 3, bees have democracy. So bees can communicate precisely, but what do they actually talk about? Sometimes they argue, really argue. Here's the scenario. A scout bee finds a great new location for the hive to move to, so the bee comes back and does the waggle dance. But the problem is that multiple bees might find different locations. They all think their location is the best. So what happens? They hold a debate. Bees that found each location do their waggle dances. Other bees check out both locations, then come back and do their own dances. Gradually, a consensus builds. The colony converges on the best location with extraordinary accuracy. It's literally democracy in action. Scientists found that certain bees were better at persuading others. They had a natural hierarchy based on how convincing you are. So bees have politics, and sometimes they get it wrong, just like humans. Fact number 4, bees can count. This one sounds ridiculous, but it's real. In 2019, researchers trained bees to pick the image with fewer dots.
5 dots versus 3 dots? They'd pick 3. But then the researchers showed them 10 dots versus 0 dots. And the bees picked 0. Why is this insane? Because 0 is an abstract concept. There's no 0 flower. There's no 0 nectar. But a bee's brain, that millimeter-sized speck of neurons, understood that 0 was a number. Neuroscientists found that bee brains have structures similar to structures in human brains that we use for mathematics. It's a scaled-down version, but the architecture is there, which means bees and humans solved the problem of numbers in fundamentally similar ways. Fact number 5, bees sleep, and they might dream. Bees sleep face down on the comb about 15 to 30 times per day, with each sleep session lasting about a minute. But here's where it gets strange. When researchers looked at the brainwaves of sleeping bees, they found signs of REM sleep. That's the phase where humans have dreams. We can't know if bees actually dream, but if they do, what would What would a bee dream about? Flying through flowers, dancing directions to nectar? One researcher found that if you deprive a bee of sleep, it forgets the information it learned. It can't remember where the flowers were. So sleep is essential for memory consolidation. Bees don't just rest, they process information while they sleep. Fact number 6. Bees have personality. Some bees are risk takers. They'll fly into unknown territory without hesitation. Other bees are cautious. They'll watch the brave bees first. They'll check out a new food source only after it's been proven safe. Scientists discovered that bee personality is consistent over time. A brave bee stays brave. A cautious bee stays cautious. It's a fundamental part of who that bee is. The colony seems to know this too. Brave bees become scouts. Cautious bees do other jobs. The colony is structured to maximize what each bee is good at. It's like the bee colony has figured out how to hire everyone for the role they're naturally suited for. Fact number 7. Bees navigate using quantum effects. This one sounds like science fiction. Bees navigate using the Earth's magnetic field, but how they do it is absolutely wild. A bee's brain has a region containing magnetite, an iron oxide that's magnetic. But magnetite alone shouldn't be sensitive enough to detect Earth's magnetic field. The field is too weak. Unless bees are using quantum effects. Researchers found evidence that certain proteins in bee eyes were being influenced by quantum effects. When light hit these molecules, they could exist in multiple states at once. They were using quantum superposition to gather information about the magnetic field. It would be like building a biological quantum computer in your eye. Bees are sensing a dimension of reality that we can't sense without instruments. They're aware of something we only detect with machines. Fact number 8. Bees play and might be conscious. In 2021, researchers observed something that had never been documented before. Bees appeared to be playing. They flew through holes in an apparatus repeatedly. Even when there was no food reward, no survival advantage, they were just doing it for what appeared to be fun. When researchers tracked the flying patterns, they noticed the bees seemed to enjoy difficult holes more than easy ones. It's like they were challenging themselves, like they were playing games. But that's not all. In 2012, researchers trained bees to associate a smell with sugar. Then they stressed the bees out and put them in an ambiguous situation. When bees were stressed, they were also depressed. They treated ambiguous situations more pessimistically. They found less sugar in places they seemed to understand were a drug that diminished stress. This was one of the first indications of emotion, suggesting bees aren't just blind ant-like animals, they might actually have feelings.
The bees that had experienced stress treated the ambiguous situation as negative. They didn't see an opportunity, they saw a threat. The only explanation is that bees have an internal emotional state, that they have feelings about what's happening around them. Fact number 9. Bees have culture. Bees have knowledge that's passed down from generation to generation. For thousands of years, humans kept bees in hives. The bees learned to tolerate us. They learned our schedule, and they passed this knowledge on to their daughters. Bees born into a hive where humans managed them were calmer and more cooperative than wild bees. This isn't genetic change. The DNA didn't change. What changed was learned, cultural knowledge. Experienced bees teach younger bees how to forage, how to navigate, how to build comb. They have social traditions. So bees don't just live together, they have a culture. Fact number 10. We still don't know how smart bees really are. Here's what we know for sure. We don't know if bees are conscious. We can't measure consciousness. But we keep finding behaviors in bees that seem to require consciousness to explain them. Scientists who study bee intelligence now say things they would have been laughed out of academia for 20 years ago. They say bees might be conscious. They're not claiming it, but they're not ruling it out either. There are 30,000 species of bees on this planet. We've only seriously studied one.
which means there's probably an entire world of biological intelligence that we haven't even started to understand. And we're killing them at a rate of about 40% every year. We're destroying one of the most intelligent life forms on this planet, and we're barely noticing because we thought they were just insects, just things that made honey. But now you know better. The next time you see a bee, think about what's happening in that tiny brain. Think about the fact that it might recognize you, that it might be intelligent in ways we're still trying to understand, that it might be conscious. Thanks for watching.